Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, movie reviews, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. And you can also go to our website, creepinitshow.com. Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I'm one of your hosts, Yardley, coming live from Atlanta, Georgia. And I just want to let everyone know that you can follow our show, Creepin' It Real, at creepin_it on Twitter. Also, you can give us an email at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. And I think what we should do is just jump right into this. I'm going to introduce my other co-host, Christy. She's also here from Atlanta. How's it going?
Hey, Yardley. It's going good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time tonight. We've got some pretty good stuff, and also can't wait for our first time actually taking a movie review seriously. And Moni from the great state of California, how you doing?
All right. Hey, guys. What's up? How's everyone doing today?
All right.
You know what?
Just all right. It's Saturday night. Come on. You can do better. I'm like the hype man. What's up, everybody? I want to hear you scream.
You know what? I've got a little bourbon in my coffee, and I'm just relaxing and ready to set this thing off. I'm actually pretty excited to do this podcast tonight because we're actually breaking down a movie that you suggested. So if the movie sucks, everybody can let Moni know at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com.
Just tweet me directly, man. I love all the hate. Come on now.
You and I are going to have words. I'm just kidding.
Bring it. Just kidding.
Well, neither one of you gave your Twitter handles. You might want to let the creepers know how to reach you on social media.
I'll do first. I'll do it first. This is Christy. You can
me
reach
first.
You can reach me on Instagram at creepinchristy. That's Christy with a K. And which I don't have to, but I usually do run our Twitter. Yes, I can't talk, so this is going to be interesting. Twitter handle at creepin_it. And that's all I got.
That's all you got. Well, I got at Rebel Moni, MONY on Twitter, and Moni Bear on Instagram. And I also got it's Saturday night for once instead of really ass early on Sunday morning. And so I'm actually catching up to you guys in the drinking department. So let's get this going.
Let's get this party started.
Well, absolutely. You know what? We're going to go ahead and jump things off with a little bit of weird news, and then we'll segue right into our movie review of Dead Awake. Moni, what do you have for us today?
Penises. What do I always bring? Penises.
Like 5,000?
That sounds really wrong. Actually, I will tell you the exact number of penises I have for you guys tonight. 3,178 embalmed human penises were taken by the FBI while they were executing a search warrant at the residence of a Houston mortician. That's really all there is to the story. The mortician was basically collecting these body parts over the years, and we're going to have to post this man's photo on all of our social media, because if you were to picture in your mind what would a guy look like if he was someone who chops sticks off and embalms them and keeps them in his house, it would be this guy.
He looks like a really fucked up genie. He has like his hair up on the top of his head, and then he has one like creepy eye that goes to the side, and
and the only wish he grants is embalmed penises.
Yeah, what, you need a penis? I got it. I got you.
Other than that, don't call this guy for anything else. No. He's had 53 criminal charges brought against him. And it was an FBI anonymous source. I don't know who the hell was like looking in his window, maybe a vacuum cleaner salesman who was like, I think I saw a bunch of dicks in this guy's house floating in embalming fluid. But I would imagine he hasn't entertained in a few years as he's been collecting these things. So that is your shit you can't make up news for the day. What you got, Christy?
Well, I just got to add really quick to the story that he said that He like first of all, once he was found out, like got really detailed about this story and was telling them exactly like what he was doing, and then said that he's been doing this for 10 years. So these guys walk into his house and see, well, over 3,000 jars of floating penises.
No.
I'm sorry.
No,
but
y'all thought the governor of The Walking
That's
Dead
300
was mad.
penises a year, you guys. I mean,
Uh,
he's busier than like the biggest slut that you know.
Well, he didn't say, or did I miss it in the article? Did he say why he got these penises?
Because he's as fucked up can be.
Oh my
Well,
God.
he's undergoing psychiatric evaluation, so we may find out soon.
I mean, he wasn't selling them on the black market or, you know, like for any other like weird purpose. Because, you know, I was thinking, what is he, like some like witchcraft dealer? Like, because, you know, people think that some shit like that would be, you know, help them not I don't know, you know, voodoo or no, he's just collecting them. They're just in jars around his house.
It puts the lotion
3,000
on its
of
skin,
them.
and then it collects the dicks again.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I think by the picture, we should all know that he likes penises. He has a top knot.
I mean, it's like he is the creepiest. He should be our creeper mascot. I mean, he is the creepiest looking dude I've seen in a long time. So, wow. But I'll move on to my news. I saw Moni's news and I was like, wow, I read it and I just couldn't even wrap my brain around it. It took me days of processing for that one. Mine isn't exactly creepy. It's just, I think it's kind of crazy because I watched the video. A almost 7-foot turtle washed up on the beach in Spain, which is bizarre, because these turtles aren't usually seen there. They're usually like really cold water. And it's a leatherback turtle, and it's pretty much, I think, breaking all records of turtles. It's huge. If you play the video, which we'll share, you can see them lifting it up with a crane. And it looks like something you would see fighting Godzilla. I mean, it's huge. And it's not just long. I mean, it's huge. I was like, this has to be photoshopped. I can't even believe this is real. And it is actually real. And it weighs over 1,500 pounds. And in the last 2,000 years of records, it's the largest turtle they've ever seen. So I think that kind of really, for me, is that what else is out there? I mean, how crazy is that? Now, all these things out there that we just don't know in the sea, and then why is this happening? Because it's also the second turtle that's giant turtle. The other one wasn't this big, but that washed up, and with all the crazy phenomenon we're having on the planet, it seems like it's causing, of course, some issues with marine life. And so, but when you look at this turtle, you just can't even believe your eyes how big it is. It looks like it came from prehistoric times.
Well, you know what? I don't really know. We don't spend a lot of money on doing research in the ocean, so I don't know if it's necessarily fair to say that something is necessarily causing it, except that we just don't fuck around in the ocean enough to know that there's probably a lot of big ass turtles out there.
Probably.
That sounds like a scientific research right there. There's a lot of big ass turtles if you fuck around in the ocean long enough.
Absolutely.
Yardley
There's probably
species.
there's probably cures for all types of shit in the ocean, and we just don't even mess with it trying to go to space.
Exactly. We spend more time in space than we do in the sea. It's just kind of bizarre, but that blew me away. So we'll share a picture of this guy. I mean, bless his heart. He's deceased, but damn, he must have lived one hell of a life. He is fucking huge.
He's really cute.
Isn't he cute?
I love turtles. Yes.
But when you look, like, there's a picture, but then when you look at the video, it really gives you like an amazing perspective of just how freaking big this thing is. And it's like, holy crap. I can't imagine swimming around and coming up face to face with that thing.
It's a pretty grand turtle. I mean, I was looking at it, and at first, like you, I thought it was Photoshop, but then I saw the video, and then I saw the comparison. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a sight to see, and I'm pretty sure that our listeners will definitely enjoy it if you go to our Facebook page, Creeping It Real Show. And also, we just want to let everybody know to get a little bit more involved. We always love feedback. We always want to hear stories that our listeners might have, any personal stories or any links to stories that you want to suggest to us that you want us to potentially talk about. Just email it once again to creepingitrealshow@gmail.com. Now is a great time to do our Dead Awake movie review. So, to give people a little brief synopsis on what Dead Awake is about, it's about a young woman who's trying to save herself and her friends from an ancient evil that stalks its victims through the real life phenomenon of sleep paralysis. Now, we mentioned sleep paralysis, I think, in our very first episode. I had a bout of it when I was young. I was probably around 10 years old. So the topic of sleep paralysis in a horror story was pretty interesting to me. I don't think outside of this, and I might be wrong, there might be other movies that deal with this subject matter, but this is the first time I've seen anything like that. So it piqued my interest, and Moni suggested the movie, and I gave it a watch. So before we dive in, we'll start with you, Moni, your overall thoughts of the movie.
This is an example of a film whose title is more interesting than the movie. That said, there actually is a lot of good research in this film on sleep paralysis, and they do spend a little more time than they need to telling you about the reality of that syndrome. And the lead character is she's really hot. So I like watching pretty girls run around, and there's 2 of her, so that's fun. That said, that as far as horror is involved, boring. Not enough go boom. Not enough go murder. Not enough. Yeah, that part, it's longer than it needs to be, and we'll get into a little more in detail, but there's no scare factor in this, but it was interesting in parts for sure.
All right, Christy.
I would mostly agree with you on that. I love Joycelyn because she's been on some really great movies. That's the lead actress. A little disappointed overall on the acting in this movie. And I'm sorry, but I can't stand Lori Petty. I cannot stand her. And she plays one of the doctors.
You didn't like her giant glasses?
God, I mean, she's got the same
Oh my
hair
gosh.
that she's always has, and Tank Girl and everything else, except she's got a coat and glasses on. Like, that's going to magically transform her into a doctor. And I wasn't feeling it. But what I think the biggest question I had the whole time I was watching this movie was, I've never personally suffered from real sleep paralysis. And I wondered if somebody who does, if this movie would be frightening to them. Because no, that's not what happens to them, but is it scary? Is it a scary thought? Is it scary to look at something another way, in a different context of what you've experienced? And maybe that's where it's scary. Maybe that's why people would think it's scary. I did not think it was scary at all. I felt like there was no real rhyme or reason to anything. And then the ending, it just all was topsy-turvy. I didn't really feel like any of it made a lot of sense, or it had a lot of character development or anything. It was just, I mean, you get the situation with the twins, and one of them's smart and a doctor and the other one's not, and I get all that. It just wasn't for me. I just really did not feel like it was a real dictation of what people go through when they suffer this. But again, I've never had it, so I can't be the overall judge and jury for that.
Now, the reason why I wanted to go ahead and get your overall thoughts over with in the beginning, which is something that, we would probably usually do at the end, was just to let our listeners know about the shit show that we're about to talk about.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
absolutely. So, on the topic of sleep paralysis, just to let our listeners know, I'm just going to give a brief summary of sleep paralysis because they deal with that and the old Hag syndrome. So, with sleep paralysis, it occurs when the line between sleep and wakefulness is blurred. Normally, your brain paralyzes many of your muscles during the stage of rapid eye movement or REM sleep. While sleeping, the muscles are unable to move so that the person won't be able to act out dreams with their body. Sleep paralysis happens when a person wakes up before REM is finished. Now, something else that we're going to hear about in the movie is old hag syndrome, and usually that is tied into sleep paralysis. So, old hag syndrome is the night hag is a generic name for a fantastical creature from the folklore of various peoples, which is used to explain the phenomenon of sleep paralysis. A common description is that a person feels a presence of a supernatural, malevolent being which immobilizes the person as if sitting on his or her chest. Now, that is something that I experienced when I had the sleep
You
paralysis.
did?
Yeah, I mentioned it in the first episode. It felt like something was sitting on my chest.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I saw in this movie, when our main character, Kate, she was looking through some newspaper. I mean, she was doing some research on it, and there were pictures that were scribbled in the book that she was looking in. And we'll get into that a little bit later, a little bit more into it later. But it had the images of the shadows and looking like they had top
Mm-hmm.
hats, which was something that I had experienced
I
as
remember you
well.
saying that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so when I saw that at that point in the movie, I was like, okay, I'll be able to hold my nose and finish it out because some of that stuff was stuff that was definitely relatable to myself. So let's go ahead and dive into the first act of the movie. Now we start off with the movie with our main character, Kate. It's her birthday, and her twin sister, Beth, throws a party with Beth's boyfriend. His name is Evan. So we go to the apartment, they're throwing the party. They actually see Kate. They tell her happy birthday. She's acting really weird. And we find out shortly after that she's been having trouble sleeping, but she was pretty apprehensive about talking about why. And we also meet her friend Linda, who is having some of the issues that she's having. Now, at this point in the movie, I just got to tell both of you, I was already ready to check out because the party was whack. The party was whack and it was really awkward. So when we were introduced to these characters, we're going to start off with you, Christy. How did you feel about the group of friends? And just like what you were mentioning earlier on your overall thoughts, I just don't really feel like they did enough to kind of set us up for the issues that Kate was having or that she mentioned in the beginning that seemed kind of out of whack. So, how'd you feel about the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of confusing because they all show up at this birthday party. Then you kind of get flayed that she's a drug addict. You know, she's a former drug addict who's living with her parents, and her and her sister don't get along. And it was so cliche. And then, so sorry to move just a little bit forward, but to find out that her girlfriend had the same problem and they're going to the same doctor. I mean, it was just, come on. I was not. I was trying to really get into it, but thinking, okay, this is going to start making sense at some point, and it just did not ever.
Oh, gosh. All right. Go ahead, Moni. Go in. I know you're about to.
So, Yardley is a goddamn hero. He has made show notes that actually outline this film.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine staying awake long enough to type what he has typed. So kudos to you, sir, for this breakdown. I would have broken down. That said, it's very sad that the acting made you not care about either one of the characters since it's the same damn girl. And I would normally say spoilers, as we're going into this, but there's nothing interesting enough to spoil. Yes, Christy, so cliche and so many coincidences. And, you were saying you were a little bit confused on certain points, and it's just like, I was, but also it was so poorly done, I didn't care.
Exactly. I'm kind of like, this doesn't make sense, but oh well, because really,
Yeah.
it was just. And okay, no, I won't jump ahead. No, let's stay the course, Christy, because I have a lot of different thoughts about different things that pop in every once in a while. Joycelyn, I like her as an actress. She was in Insidious Chapter 2. She's been House of the Devil and Furious 7. I mean, she's a good actress, and so I was shocked at this result. I really was. And I don't think that it's necessarily her fault, although she didn't do really as well as I think she should have. I think it literally was just a failure of the script. I mean, she only can do what she can do. And so, but I'm kind of shocked that she went with this after being kind of a substantiated actress. And I read the reviews after I watched the movie because I didn't even, usually I never watch a movie without reading all the reviews. And I don't care about critic reviews, I care about people. And so I always get on there and watch, and read everything. I mean, it takes me sometimes an hour to find a movie after researching all the reviews. But I didn't do it with this one because I knew I had to watch it anyway. And then when I got done with the movie and I got on there, everybody was like, "Really, Joycelyn? Really?" Like they were shocked that she did this movie and that its result was really lacking her ability. It was kind of surprising.
Well, the Joycelyn that Christy is talking about is actress Joycelyn Donahue, and she plays both twins, Kate and Beth Bowman, in this movie. Now, to kind of piggyback off of something that you said earlier, Christy, about you did not like Laura Petty in this movie, it kind of brings us to the point where during the party, or maybe a little bit after it, their homegirl Linda suggests that Kate goes to see Dr. Sykes. And as Moni had mentioned earlier, I mean, she's got these trifocals that you could probably see like the rings of Saturn with. And at first I was wondering, I was like, are those fake? But they really did look like prescription glasses. Are those real glasses?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Wow.
A whore with glasses is still a whore, so I don't know why you would try to make her look smart by putting these horrible things on her face.
And, I feel bad for Lori Petty because I don't know what she's been up to. I don't know what her thing is, but I thought she was crazily wrongly casted in Point Break, or whatever the hell that movie was called with Keanu Reeves with the surfing and all that.
Yeah.
She made zero sense in that movie. It was still an okay movie because it was the 90s, y'all. I mean, don't judge. And and then she went to Tank Girl, and then she just kind of disappeared. And then when she reappeared, it was like, now I know why you've disappeared, because she almost looks like she has a tic when she talks. She has like this weird acting method that I just don't get. Like I hated that they ended the movie with her. I'll just say that, and we can figure that out later. But I was just like, no, don't end with her.
In this movie, she was a tic.
Yes, it was bad.
Well, at this point in the movie, Linda suggests that Kate goes to see Dr. Sykes. Now, something that I did not put in the show notes because I really couldn't remember, and I couldn't really bring myself to go back and click on the movie again to find out. But at what point did it get suggested that our other doctor, Dr. Hassan Davies, who suggested that Linda go see Dr. Hassan, was that Linda as well?
Oh, geez. I don't even know.
I feel like this is a pop quiz.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's really not even that important. I'm just going to give people a little history of the two doctors that we'll be talking about for the rest of this movie review. The first doctor is Dr. Sykes, who we've been lambasting so far. She's pretty much a rationalist. And we'll be introduced to another doctor, Dr. Hassan Davies. He's an alternative, like a supernaturalist. He's kind of a fringe type of doctor. But what I'm wondering is whenever
together.
Yeah, and that's it, because she had some. It was apparent that she had like a lot of beef with him. So
yeah,
thanks for telling me that, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask. I was like, why the fuck does she not like that crazy motherfucker Dr. Hassan?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So she didn't like him. They used to work together, and she felt like his methods were too mad and
Which of
whatever, and they
course
had
meant that he was right.
beef
That's what
and
that always means in those cheapo horror films. Is like the one who's
exactly,
too crazy is the one who knows too much.
exactly.
Uh, well, Moni, why do you think that when we get movies like this? Because why couldn't Dr. Hassan just be a chill guy who was clearly freaked out, but why does he have to be a weirdo? Like why do they have to make the guy who's thinking out of the box just be this raggedy, just super creepy guy? And I'm wondering, do you think that they made that decision to make him that tweaked out because they felt like it would help the movie? Or you think that they probably wouldn't have the balls to make this guy a little bit more stand up, so to speak?
Well, to my mind, first of all, Dr. Sykes, played by Laurie Penny, is the weirdo. Is like you have a bunch of, well, you have a bunch of patients who all have the same symptoms, and then they all start dying, and it's just like, you think that maybe there's a pattern here that you should look into, that maybe your old pal Dr. Hassan is right. And as far as making Dr. Hassan be a creep, I mean, just because the guy collects dicks and embalms them and puts them around his
Yeah.
house
You
doesn't
went
mean.
there.
No, I think that if you looked like a fine, upstanding citizen, I work with the public. And when someone who's well dressed comes up and starts to tell me some kind of story, I'm automatically engaged and I'm like, this person's going to tell me something believable. And then when batshit stuff starts coming out of their mouth, I give them a couple more minutes before I completely decide that this person has gone cuckoo and is not coming back. But if someone comes up to me and they look like the guy in our with the top knot in our dick
Oh,
article,
right. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, whatever comes out of this guy's mouth is going to be crazy time. So I feel
It's
like the reason
typecast,
why,
right?
and it's sad, and you're judging a book by its cover. Ha ha, I'm a librarian judging a book by its cover. But, if you're going to go with the way overused horror movie cliche of not believing the one who's right at the beginning, he has to be someone who isn't so clean cut and easy to believe right off the bat, I think.
Yeah, I think what's so funny about this is that the guy that plays him, Doctor, what is his name, Hussein or whatever. He's actually a very talented Latin actor. Like he's in some pretty good movies, and a lot of them are not, American. But so bless his heart. Like he's American, but he kind of transitioned into acting from Latin movies. And this is like one of his American movies. He was actually, I'm trying to remember, he was in Colombiana, which I know is a good movie. And I'm trying to remember the other movie he was in a long time ago, but so it's just bizarre. I mean, he doesn't normally look like this. So they really worked this character to make him look like a greasy homeless dude, because he looks gross. I mean, he looks like he hasn't bathed in like a week.
Hey, he's so busy being right and brilliant about everything that he just doesn't have time for hygiene and shaving and personal well-being, okay?
I think the consensus is people who don't sleep look like shit.
Well, you know what?
As
He
a
is
mother
the
of young
guy.
children, I can affirm that one for you.
Nah, he's the guy that when you come out of the strip club at 3 a.m, he's the guy that's standing beside the guy with the grill cooking the fish sandwiches. Like,
Hey, those fish sandwiches are good though.
he's that guy. Now, so we've given everybody a little bit of background on the two doctors that we're going to be talking about. So essentially, like most movies, you have the people who have this experience, who believe what's going on, and then you're always going to have the people who don't. And in this case, Beth is the person who doesn't necessarily believe everything that Beth is telling her about the issues that she has. So naturally, this is a horror movie. She doesn't believe it. Beth ends up going to sleep, and she is killed by the old hag in her dream. Now, at this point, of course, everybody's freaking out. And Evan, who was Beth's boyfriend, he and Kate both start doing a little research into the paranormal nature of what Kate said that was going on with her sleep. Now, of course, once again, we're going to get this same cycle. Evan is going to go to sleep. He encounters the old hag, manages to wake up, At this point, he is in a daze and doing his painting because he is an artist. And Kate, at that point, decides to call Dr. Hassan, who we mentioned before. So that pretty much wraps up the first act. Is there anything that happened that I just talked about that you guys want to go over, like Evan and Kate talking about the night hag syndrome or his experience with the night hag? Actually, what did you think of the night hag? As I guess the movie monster in itself. It reminded me of stuff that I've already seen, so it wasn't awesome in any way.
I thought the old hag's face was okay. I don't understand why she has to crawl everywhere. I mean, can she not walk or she need a wheelchair? But why does she crawl all the time? Like, there was no. It was just, you just knew this thing was going to crawl on the floor and crawl over. And then she's so strong that she can hold you down and suffocate you and choke you to death, but she can't walk. That really bothered me.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but okay, The Ring. The Ring was a good movie in its time, and it still has a decent premise, but that is where we got that fucked up crawling thing. And every once in a while they do it, they still can do it well sometimes when they're crawling maybe like on the ceiling and they make it work. But most of the time, it is a way overused old horror movie thing now that everything has to be all malformed and crawling around. And, ooh, my limbs are everywhere, and I must be scary if my damn elbows are sticking out.
Yeah.
And it's just like a contortionist is not necessarily scary. And I think that's exactly what they were going for with this, and fail.
Yeah, like The Grudge, too. Like the same, which... When The Grudge came out, that was pretty fucking scary. That weird contortionist, weird crawl thing. But it just doesn't make sense. It just didn't fit the type of situation that these people were in. I didn't get it. I mean, and then why are they frozen?
Like, well, that's sleep paralysis, though, right?
But why? Okay, so why... And then why are their eyes open sometimes, and then sometimes their eyes are closed? Like, I have so many questions. I'm like, this was the whole time I was watching it, which I had to watch it twice because the first time I watched it, I know, dude, I know. The first time I watched it, for some reason, because I was streaming it, it just died 20 minutes before the end. And I was so pissed that I just didn't have in me to go find it and redo it and fast forward again. So then a couple of days later, I watched it again and I just fast forwarded through a lot of it. But then I'm like, well, it's been a few days and I don't want to forget details. So I watched it again. So then by the second time, I really had some questions there. I'm like, because the first time you're just kind of watching and you're not really, thinking about different details. You're just paying attention to things that happen. And then the second time you're watching it, you're like, why the hell? What? No. This doesn't make sense. So, anyway.
Well, hey, look, it took me a week to watch an hour and a half, this hour and a half movie. But so to dive back in, Kate and Evan, they're doing a little research because he is his interest, especially with the death of his girlfriend, Beth. He's more or less more interested in what Kate was having to say with the issues that she's having. So they decide to do a little research online, and they find this guy named John Pang. He pretty much says that he's having the same experience that Kate's having, and he says that he has a way to beat the sleep monster. And hey, lucky for them, they believe him. So they call to check to see if he's alive. They find out that he is, and they decide to go get Linda to meet this individual. Now, when we go, now we kind of zoom in to Linda. She has a sleep paralysis episode with the old hag and dies when her husband comes home. Now, what did you think of this scene? I actually thought that was kind of all right because I think that would be kind of freaky to come home. You're talking to your wife. She's got her eyes open and she's not saying anything. You pretty much think she's giving you the cold shoulder, but in reality, the old hag is choking the shit out of her in her dream. So, what did you think about this, Moni?
Well, actually, that you're right. I thought was kind of effective because I have this thing with horror movies, and I don't, for lack of what else other term to give it, I've always called it proximity. And it's kind of that thing where you're so close to safety, like they do it in the movie Scream, where like they get murdered in a movie theater and everybody thinks that it's oh, spoilers, by the way, if you haven't seen Scream, sorry. Everybody thinks that that it's a joke, and they're like, oh, this is a really good show, but you're actually getting butchered in front of a bunch of people. Where you're in the proximity of safety, you should be in a safe place. Like your husband's home with you, your eyes are open, he's talking to you, you should be able to be woken up, you should be able to be saved from this whole old hag choking you, but you're not. That did get my heart rate up just a little bit, where I was like, that is a really cool concept, that you're like, thank God my husband's home and I'm going to be saved. But no, the old hag's going to kill me anyway. And also as a librarian, and I have to let it go, but I never completely do. You should always do research on Google by yourself. You should always trust the first thing that pops up, and you should always go meet weird random strangers from the internet without ever checking your sources or trying to figure out if it's fake news. Don't ever ask your librarian or anyone who's actually gone to school to research things for you. Just make sure you meet creepers on your own. Yeah. That's my rant.
All right.
What's up, Christy? Yeah.
What was that? I'm just kidding. I heard it. Okay. Yeah, in theory, I think that would be scary. Here's the thing that really bothered me about that scene. How did her dude not know something was really wrong? Does she just like stare off into outer space completely still with her eyes wide open all the time? Or, I mean, you're just giving me the
maybe
silent
when he's
treatment.
Talking.
You're just giving me the silent treatment. Like, no, yeah. Silent treatment usually doesn't mean my eyes are wide open and I'm just staring off into outer space looking like I'm being choked. I mean, that's pretty much what she looked like. I can't imagine my dude coming home from work and, we've had a fight or I'm mad at him and him talking to me and that being a normal thing that would happen ever. Even if I was giving him the silent treatment, my silent treatment doesn't exist of me just staring off into outer space with my eyes wide open. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm too much of a skeptic, but it just didn't. I was like, really? Come on. I mean, and that's the part that bothered me, is that their eyes were open. I don't believe that they're in that. Yes, of course, with the sleep paralysis, your eyes are open, so it would make sense. But then sometimes they weren't, and then and then you could still see. So if you could still see with your eyes closed, then why sometimes their eyes were open and sometimes their eyes were closed? I don't get that. That really bothers me.
Because sometimes you needed the shots where they were crying while this was happening,
and the spider,
which actually
dropping in
kind
her
of got
eyeball.
me. Which is sorry.
With the spider dropping in her eyeball.
Yes. Sometimes you needed that. And sometimes you needed your eyes closed because effect, okay? Don't demand any kind of realism from a movie that's talking about a real syndrome that actually happens.
So I know that Yardley, that you, and I'm sorry, I'm hijacking this. I apologize. I know that you said that you had this experience, and I know that you told me about it. But when you woke up, did you like wake up? Like, did you open your eyes and you looked around? Or did you feel like you had been awake the whole time?
Well, it was weird because, just like the scientific explanation where you're in between, being asleep and being awake, my experience, I woke up. I couldn't move. I was looking around the room. But the reason why I woke up was it felt like somebody was sitting on my chest. It felt like somebody was on top of me. Mm-hmm. So I was looking around. So when I came out of it, pretty much for the most part, my muscles just relaxed. And then all of a sudden, I could move. So for me, my experience was pretty much like that.
Okay. All right. I just wondered because I'm not expecting a movie to, because they have to do what they have to do, you know? But
Yeah.
I just wondered, like, how does that, you know, how does it coincide with what happened with the movie, with something that happened in real life?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they had in the movie. If you do research on the old Hag or sleep paralysis, usually both of those things are going to be tied in no matter what sources that you look up. A lot of the things that in the movie are things that people experience. So I kind of feel like from that standpoint, they did okay, but they were basically just copying and pasting the same stuff that we could see on the internet. And when we were talking about the old hag that they had in the movie, um, Dr. Hassan basically meets Kate and Evan, or they go to his home. They start talking. Dr. Hassan essentially tells them through his experience, he's found out along with his research that the old hag preys on the weak and then finds them and preys on their fears once they start believing and keeps coming, which pretty much says he's a bootleg Pennywise. That's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
Or she is, so to speak. So they pretty much lifted that a little bit. But Kate and Evan, they eventually, after talking to Dr. Hassan, they go to see Mr. Pang, who they found on the internet, and he's pretty much fried. He's in a wheelchair. And I think they say that they're lawyers to try to convince his caretaker to let them in to see him. And I thought that was pretty ridiculous. Like this guy's coming over in sneakers, a dirty t-shirt, and you know what I mean? And they just hand
Yeah.
her a card and she's like, all right, cool. You know what? Just go back there and see him. But uh, they find out that he has sleep insomnia, and he gave some type of a crazy name. Essentially, we find out that this guy was able to beat the old hag by not going to sleep. And his caretaker lets the audience know, hey, this guy hasn't been to sleep in like a year. The doctors are only giving him a couple of months to live. And, he's going nuts at this point because Kate has been asking him all these crazy questions. What do you what do you think about the character of Mr. Pang? I mean, I thought that he sold being an unbathed insomniac that's gone nuts, but it's kind of hard for me to believe that doing anything that you could stay awake for a year. I mean, your body will just
It's
flat
not
out shut down.
possible. It's not
Yeah, it
possible.
would totally.
It's not humanly possible to stay awake for a year. I'm sorry. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh my god, really? That's your I that did it for me. That was ridiculous. Sorry. But you
I
can't
just
stay
really
awake
wanted
for
them
a
to
year."
pull out and like cut to the room being from the Simpsons episode, the Halloween Treehouse of
Yeah.
Horror episode, where Homer's been writing on the walls like "all work and no play makes Homer a,"
Mhm.
I forget what he put, but I just wanted that to be written all over the walls after they pulled out and were showing how creepy and crazy that guy was from supposedly no sleep in a year or whatever.
Yeah. It
It's
was
disappointing,
it was
you know.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Also, I think Freddy Krueger is going to also be suing to get his gig back because who comes in your dreams and becomes stronger as starting with preying on the weak and then getting to the stronger until he can himself become strong enough to manifest physically outside of your dreams. That's Freddy Krueger, bitch, and you're stealing his gig.
Hey, and at least they can move in his dream. I mean, hello. I mean,
Look, they they didn't get jack shit out of Mr. Pang. He's like, yo, you want to know
what a
how you can
waste.
get rid of the old hag? Hey, don't go to sleep. So that's very ingenious of him. And we get an opportunity to see Kate and Evan go back to see Dr. Hassan, who gives them a little bit more information on his research into the old hag. He tells them that the hag exists in the space between dreams and reality. And since Dr. Hassan has had the experience as well, he tells them the way that he's able to stay awake. He uses highly concentrated caffeine pills and an infusion pump that can wake him up in intervals if he decides to go to sleep. So, of course, naturally, he's going to suggest to Kate and to Evan that, hey, go to sleep. I'll give you some adrenaline while you sleep. And when the hag makes contact, I'll break the connection. And then, of course, that's going to snap the hag out of messing with you anymore, or at least that's what he assumes. So I have to ask both of you, starting with Christy, what do you think about highly concentrated caffeine pills, infusion pumps, and being shot with adrenaline from a guy who is shaking like a leaf all the time?
Well, okay, the first time when she fell asleep, this is the part where I'm getting to where she apparently didn't open her eyes. So they're like, oh no, her eyes aren't open. So she's not having any problems. And then when they realized that she was having problems, of course, yes, his hands were shaking. And the dude, which I have questions about Evan as well, realizes this guy can't do a shot. He can't even, keep his hand still for, 2 seconds. And then he takes that shot and he just jabs it into her leg, like, boom. And she jolts awake. Okay, yes, I would too. And then she's all just like, hey, I'm going to go take a shower. Like, what? Next scene? Like, really? Really? I'm sorry. No, my ass would have been like, I can't imagine what my leg would look like. And I just, so many questions. No, that doesn't make sense. No.
You should always let people who you meet on the internet who look as creepy as we've already discussed that he looks, inject shit into your bloodstream as a choice between that or being killed by a fictional, possibly, hag that might be choking you to death, maybe, or maybe not. I don't know. It's all so fucking sketchy. Like, what is wrong with these people?
And then he hasn't bathed in how many weeks? And then they're like, yes, perform medical things on me with open wounds, please. No, and don't wash your hands. It's cool. And then, hey, drop the shot on the floor and it rolls under the couch.
And then pick it up and use it again. Yes.
And then stab it over my leg.
Hey, you know what? Something that we did not mention that happened earlier in the episode, I think that this was after Kate's sister Beth had died. The scene where she was in the bathtub and she falls asleep and starts sinking under the water or whatever, and then we see the water turn black, and of course, it's the old hag. Well, what did you think about that scene?
Well, I've never seen that done in any horror movie in the history of ever, okay? There has never been any famous shower scenes, any famous bathtub scenes. We've never seen it, Yardley, never.
That was original, for sure.
And you know what? I'm confused because actually this happens. I think that's when Evan was waiting outside. So did I kind of get that mixed up?
No, that's the shower.
There's
scene.
2 different scenes,
So
yeah.
The first one was in the tub. And yes, I hinted that whole sarcasm situation, Moni. I got it because, oh my God, I have never fallen asleep in a bathtub, first of all. Second of all, you can't tell me that when you suffer from sleep paralysis, that the second you close your eyes, you can't move. I'm sorry. It makes zero sense. She's laying in the tub. She closes her eyes, and I get she's probably tired. But the second, and every single time you close your eyes, this happens. It just doesn't. No, that ain't real. Ain't real. Not that it should be.
Well, because didn't you say about real sleep paralysis, you have to get to a certain point in your sleep cycle in order for it to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and you would think even if you're a demon, like going after somebody, that you've got some standards. But she didn't at all. Like, she's like, the second you close your eyes, your ass is mine. Boom, done. Like, there was that dude fell asleep in the freaking hallway, sitting down. Done.
now,
It's
now
ridiculous.
well, look, in true horror film fashion, Kate buys everything that Dr. Hassan tells her, or she steps out on faith, or whatever. She ends up going to sleep. The old hag comes to get her. He gives her the adrenaline shot, of course, and she wakes up. And then they state to Evan that, hey, the old hag may be out of her life, but Evan, we're going to have to repeat this same process with you. So, of course, right before Evan gets this process done to him, Kate realizes that earlier in the movie, she had told her parents, just doing some research on the old hag. And essentially, Dr. Hassan and Kate come to the conclusion that the parents might be in danger because the old hag, which killed her sister, if her parents start to believe it, it'll come to get them. So they haul ass back home. It ends up being a false alarm. Now, what Christy was mentioning earlier, Kate and Evan, they eventually go back to his apartment, of course, because she's a little funky and she wants to take a shower, of course. And at this point, I was kind of cringing because I was like, okay, are y'all about to go there? Because I kind of felt it
Yeah.
coming.
That's what I was
And
wondering too. I'm
yeah,
like, are they
I
gonna
was,
hook up or what?
yeah, eyes were rolling hardcore.
Yeah.
Did your eyes roll, Moni?
You have to hook up with your twin sister's boyfriend, even though she's dead. I mean, that's definitely the first thing that you have to do is dance on her grave while fucking her boyfriend.
Well, yeah. And I gotta
Go ahead,
say,
Christy.
real quick, I'm sorry to go back, but what was the fucking point with her going to the parents? Like, what did that, what? What was that for? Why?
We were supposed to be scared and feel some sense of dread that the parents were killed, okay? That was supposed to be a suspenseful moment. Didn't you feel the
No,
suspense?
no, I didn't at
Yeah.
all. I thought it was a complete waste of time. I mean, usually it's like, oh my gosh, my parents. And you're like, oh no, the parents. And then there's some sort of like, there's something that nope. She gets there and her mom, I mean, it was ridiculous. I'm like, okay, what was that for? That was dumb. And then, like, yes, and then they get there and you think he's watching her undress to get in the shower. And first of all, I would not be just like, hey, I'm just going to take a shower. My leg was just stabbed with a bunch of adrenaline. I would have probably been a little cranky, but not her. She was just as happy as can be. Probably the adrenaline. But, and then gets in the shower and he's just sitting there taking a peek and nods off.
Of course. As one does when he sees a pretty lady naked.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Naked lady
Well,
in the shower.
what they were doing is they were kind of paralleling something that happened a little bit earlier in the episode. She was having trouble sleeping, and when she went to go see Evan, he was telling her a story or something about her sister, and I guess the boringness of the story put her to sleep. So they kind of did that again with her talking to him, and then he goes to sleep. Now, I don't even have to say to the people who will be listening to this podcast of what happens to Evan when he falls asleep. The hag gets him, and of course, it kills him. And I was, at the point when the hag was going to get Evan, I was just like, it was taking way too long. I'm like, just get his ass, because we all knew it was coming, and they did it. Did Evan go out like a sucker, or could you see it coming from a mile away? Either one of you jump in.
Bye-bye weed smoking ponytail boy.
Yeah, I mean, the way they did it, of course. Okay, so who was he dreaming about? Like, was it which chick was it? Because they're
Wasn't
twins.
he dreaming about having sex with a sister? I mean, with
Was it the
Kate?
sister or was it the dead one? I don't know.
All of the above.
But yeah, so he was all excited, and then dun 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 dun. Nope,
Well,
this isn't reality.
you know what? And my bad, he wasn't killed. He was put in a coma.
He was,
So.
but basically dead. Yeah.
Dead to me. I didn't care.
To me. And by the way, if you look him up, because I was like, he looks familiar. And I looked him up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he looks like a totally different person than what he normally looks like when he's an actor. And I actually recognized him once I looked him up. He really got into character for that one. I guess
What has he been in?
Oh gosh, now I have to go back and look. But
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at it too.
no, it's
Talk amongst
okay.
yourselves.
No, he's actually really good looking. He was in Flags of Our Fathers, Romeo and Juliet from the 90s, you know. Hacker.
Nice.
He was in a couple of other movies. Now I can't think of what they were. Let me think. Oh, Dead Awake. Apparently he was on Dead Awake, guys. I'm just kidding.
He was? Oh, he was. He's really cute without all that weird hair and
adorable?
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he's one of the few guys that actually looks better without the facial hair. Sorry, we digress.
He looked ridiculous in this movie as far as that hair. Ugh. It wasn't good. I mean, long hair on guys can be nice, but his was just so nice. He looked like a 90s dude. He did.
Damn. Jesse Bradford, IMDb, his photo is delicious.
Isn't he cute?
Yeah.
He looks like
Gold star, Moni, for reminding me of how much of a pothead he was, too. That was something that I totally forgot to mention. I mean,
because it was supposed to be such a mixing of two different character styles, with the uptight sister that never got along with the pot-smoking sister that dies, and her boyfriend that is so much artist with the pot and the not caring and the whoa, just let it go, man. It was such a juxtaposition that we were supposed to witness.
I liked how he was such a typical artist. Like, yeah, man, I've just got all this art around my apartment and I have long hair.
My girlfriend just died, but I gotta go make some art about it.
I'm gonna go paint and really get into my specialty of life and just smoke a lot of pot now. It was just, okay.
I felt like he was glad she was gone so he didn't have to share the weed anymore.
Yeah, he was really, he didn't have to share it because he said he quit. So he was just happy he could smoke.
Oh, that's right.
He quit for her. Remember, I quit for her, man. Because she was all like, yo, dude, you suck. I mean, my sister had a life before she met you, and then you pulled her down. And he's like, no, yo, I didn't. I quit for her, and we had a beautiful life together.
Could be such a square. Could they ever get it together for the sake of this mystery?
Maybe.
Oh my gosh. Now, all right, now to get back on the rails. Come on, let's get back on the rails.
Poor Yardley.
Well, Kate, at this point, obviously, Kate is totally freaking out, and they're going to go back to Dr. Hassan. He makes a suggestion that Kate needs to confront and destroy the Hag, says he has to give her an IV, and he'll bring her back. So she gets the IV for adrenaline, and she then goes to sleep. Hassan tries to wake her up, and of course, it fails. He decides, hey, the best thing that I can do is to put myself under and go and try to save her. So that was pretty
much a death sentence for him.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really get why that was the answer. I mean, you need to, I don't know, in that situation, I just don't know if everybody who might know a way to beat this should probably put themselves at risk and die, and there not be a chance for anyone else. But that's thinking a little bit too much. But what did you think about the decision of the doctor, Moni? I mean, would you have put yourself under to try to save her?
No, save her. I hardly even know her. I met her on the internet, and now all this shit is happening. Like,
my ass would have been in the shower washing that greasy mop.
Yeah, I don't even. My brain is flatlined, both when I was watching this and now that we're talking about it. I was like, so noble. Nope, so stupid. This is a stupid movie. Let's see. Kills himself, dies. No, I would not have. Don't know the chick, and would have been like, bitch is dead in my apartment. Don't know what happened. Walk away whistling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already know Christy wouldn't have done it, so we'll move on. Now, Kate at this point, when she's under and Dr. Hassan is trying to save her in her dream, she sees her sister Beth while she's under during her episode of sleep paralysis, and she is told by her to let go. Now, we all know that this is a an incarnation of the old hag. But something that I noticed in this movie was obviously throughout filming, Jocelyn began developing a sty on her eye that kept getting bigger as the movie went along, and that kind of bugged me because I kept looking at her eye, and ironically, Beth, who was already dead, her ghost had a sty on the eye as
Isn't
well.
that
So
magical?
yeah, that's just attention to detail. You can't beat it.
No.
Now, no, but I mean, this is like a real lifestyle, and it just kind of bugged me. But she soldiered through and kept on playing this character as weak as possible. But Kate figures out that it's the hag. Then she proceeds to stab and choke the hag. The This was so weak and not awesome that I don't even know how to attack it in any
Not awesome.
way. So I'm gonna pass this to both of you guys.
Great. Thanks,
Pretty
Yardley.
the big scene in the movie.
It wasn't a big scene. It sucked. I mean, okay. So, yes, the second that girl started talking, I knew that she was the old hag. I mean, hello. I think we all did. I mean, if we've ever seen a scary movie ever, it's the typical bullshit plot that they all throw if they have a weak, if they have weak substance of the movie. It sucked. And then she's fighting with the old hag, and then she stabs it, and then she's choking it, which, okay, when she started choking it, I was like, yeah, now you know what it feels like, old hag. But then all this blood started coming out, and then she was covered with black on her hand. It just, what? Why? Why did the old hag have blood coming out of her neck? She wasn't stabbed in her neck. She was stabbed on her stomach. And then she lays her down and starts choking her, and black shit starts coming up out of her neck. Why? That was just like the basic word throughout this entire movie for me was why.
Okay, so to even beat this dead horse any further is beneath my obviously enormous intellect. I just want to say that I'm teasing. All I just want to say is that sty may have been a physical manifestation of how much bullshit this whole film was filled with. And I think that it was like the equivalent of getting a twitch. Like I get eye twitches when I just cannot even anymore. Yeah. And but that said, I'm just not even going to talk about the film anymore. I'm just going to say that the actress is still so hot. The actress is still so hot that with or without a sty, I would not kick her out of bed. But I'm just saying.
They did show a little booty shot too. I noticed that they had to slide that in. You think it was the same actress?
Yeah.
I hope so, but probably not.
This film had too low of a budget for any kind of body double. It had to have been her.
I know. Didn't they like shoot it in like 3 locations?
Pretty much.
Like the doctor's house. And
the director's bedroom.
Yeah, director's bedroom.
Yeah, they didn't spend. I didn't even look at the box office for it, but let's talk about how this thing pretty much closes out. So she defeats the hag, or at least stops it. And eventually we see a scene where Beth essentially turns into a less freaky Hassan, because now she's the teacher to kind of spread the news and what she knows about sleep paralysis on to other people. And she's doing it on this site, sort of like YouTube.
Like a vlog.
So she's a mixture of him and Pang, and she starts doing her thing. And then, of course, out of nowhere, and this made no damn sense. They didn't set this up. You know what? I'll give the show credit for this. One of the things that they were trying to do was they didn't do a good job of explaining it, but the old hag seemed to have access to different people that Kate has met. I didn't feel like in the movie that Kate had any type of relationship with Dr. Sykes that would make the hag go to kill her. And that's what happens. Dr. Sykes is in the bed, and then the hag shows up and kills her. That was not really set up in any way, or maybe that was their way of saying, hey, scientists don't know everything, and the things they don't will come back to bite you, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, but I thought that was the dumbest end to a movie, that, I don't know, it just seemed like it was shoehorned in. What did y'all think?
That should have been in like the middle. It's not like Lori Petty Tank Girl had any kind of um, credit to anything else that happened for the rest of the movie. She should have been wiped out way before. They should not have ended it with her. Sorry, but ugh.
Well, it was a little stunningly petty, ha ha, ha ha, that they had to basically take this character that whose fault none of this was. I mean, just because she was wrong doesn't mean that she was like, the old hag embodied just because she didn't believe in it. And be like, yeah, this is the revenge we're going to get on this character. This is what we've all been waiting for the whole movie, is to see this bitch die because she didn't believe in this shit. Like, come on.
I thought Lori Petty should have died from the very beginning, but what do I know?
Yeah, and obviously
sorry,
they
Lori
did not
Petty.
really give a shit.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sure you're a very nice lady without your stupid glasses on.
Yeah, and your weird tick acting method. I'm sure it's wonderful. You're a great person, which I actually saw a couple of days ago when I was looking at this film, that they have a new movie in production called The Old Hag Syndrome.
Oh, really? Who's
that? Yeah. It's being made in the UK, and it doesn't say when it's going to be released, but interesting concept. The budget is $3.2 million. I don't know how much you can do with that, but it's
can't even hire a butt double for that much.
Yeah, it's being filmed in Mississippi, but it says country the UK. I don't know if IMDb doesn't know what the map does or what, but how does the map go? But anyway,
how does the map work?
Well, maybe it's being filmed in the UK and they're just going to find some areas and they're going to say that it's Mississippi or something. Maybe they didn't write it in there, right? But
I think this is definitely a topic that is going to be the new horror thing,
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see what people are going to do with sleep paralysis. The only thing that really made me interested in watching the movie was just the content, the sleep paralysis. Like I said, when it comes to horror movies, I've never really seen people go there. So, it sucked me in, at least being curious. So I was pretty disappointed with it, but I know that we've pretty much filleted this movie. But I have to ask, I mean, there's always something that might work for an individual when they watch a movie. We've gone through a lot of the things that we didn't like. What worked for you in the movie, Moni?
I had not, as I mentioned last week, known about Old Hag Syndrome. So while that could have been a simple, I can't say Google search now that I've been making fun of people that do that. Well, that could have been a simple research project for me to look into. I did appreciate that there was some realism in what this character was going through. And I always, no matter how stunningly, mind-numbingly stupid a film is, try to put myself into the character's shoes. And I think that there is some genuine, like, Yardley, if I had to go through what you went through with the sleep paralysis, like, that would scare the shit out of me. And I think I would have some insomnia lingering for a few weeks, if not months, after an episode like that, just being afraid that something like that would happen again. And so just kind of thinking about it from that perspective was interesting. But other than that, I don't know who the hell said that we should watch this film, but you should send all of your hate mail to that person, okay?
Send it to Moni Bar at... No, I'm just kidding.
No. I'll have to say that probably for me, I don't know if I really have any highlights of the movie. I mean, everything was either highly predictable, or the execution was horrible, or it was something that wasn't explained. So if I have to say that there's any highlight, at least they gave a shot at trying to approach this horror movie from the aspect of sleep paralysis. I think that's my only highlight for the film. I definitely would not suggest this to someone, and if I had to give it a rating of 1 to 5, and we'll kind of do a round robin on this, I would give it a 2.5, because I can't say that it's the most awful thing that I've seen. I've seen worse. What about you, Christy?
I'd give it a 2. I think I was really disappointed because I think when you think about the concept of sleep paralysis, and then when you think about the concept of old hag syndrome, this demon coming to you in your sleep, there are just limitless options of how to create a story, and they just failed epically. And that's such a bummer, especially when it came from the Final Destination guys, who I kind of dig those movies. I mean, I really like those. I think that the fate thing is such a great concept. And I appreciate that they are trying to open up another concept in horror, because you just get the same shit over and over and over again. But it just didn't work for me. There just didn't make any sense, and the acting wasn't good. The character development made no sense to me. It just didn't. I'm giving it a week 2 for sure.
I'll give it a 2. There was hot chicks and booty. That was good.
Barely.
Yeah.
Enough.
I would like that hour and 39 minutes of my life back. And do better. Do better, society. Do better, movie makers.
Now, we want to remind everyone who's listening is what we're going to try to do is every other week we'll pick a movie and we'll watch it, and we'll make sure that we let everyone know on our Creeping It Real Facebook page what movie we're going to watch. We want to give everybody an opportunity to be able to find or stream the movie, so that we can all be in the discussion. Like we said, we definitely want feedback, and we are definitely open to suggestions about content to discuss, especially movies that you might have seen that you think that other people might be interested. We'll give it a go. I mean, it's horror. We're going to have some that hit and some that miss, but I'm pretty sure that this is something that we'll have a lot of fun doing. I had fun talking about this. Is this something that you guys would like to continue, or shall I say, you ladies?
Yeah, and I always have fun doing everything. Well, talking with you guys. Let me clarify. Speaking with you both, I have lots of fun. So yes, I would love to do this again.
Me too. Absolutely. Hopefully a better movie next time, but hey.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I think what I'll do, well, you know what, Christy, we'll do a round robin on the movies. The next movie, you'll pick it out, and then the movie after that, I'll pick, so we can kind of distribute the hate that people are going to throw at us pretty evenly. So before we close things out, we kind of want to go around to all of our hosts, and once again, let you know where you can follow us on social media. For me, you can follow me on Twitter at militant_marker. Christy?
I am Creepin' Christy, and at Twitter I am at Creepin_it.
I am on Twitter at Rebel Moni, Mony, because Billy fucking Idol gave me that nickname and it stuck. And on Instagram, it is Moni Bear, MoniBarre. See y'all there, creepers.
All right, everybody, until next time.